The day Joanna accepted Daniel's confession, everyone thought I would lose it and fight Daniel to the death. But even when the confession ended, I never showed up. Because Joanna didn't know I was lying on her best friend's bed, holding her close, barely holding back a volcanic eruption. The rich transfer student was going to confess to Joanna in front of everyone. Joanna had told everyone in advance, asking them to keep it from me. What she didn't know was that someone eager to stir things up had already spilled the secret. Who didn't know I was crazy about Joanna? I dreamt of marrying her. This time, Joanna had also caught feelings for that guy. Everyone believed I would be furious, unwilling to give up without a fight. After all, who doesn't love a good drama filled with love, hate, and obsession? They were all waiting for me to snap, charge in, and turn the scene into chaos. But unfortunately, even when the confession was over, I still hadn't shown up. The crowd, packed tightly in layers, started losing interest. Even Joanna didn't seem all that thrilled. She clung to her new boyfriend's arm and pulled out her phone. "No calls or messages." Joanna furrowed her brows slightly. Then she turned to the crowd and said, "Tonight Daniel's treating. Everyone here is invited." The students around cheered. It was only then that I stepped out from behind the bushes. Someone sharp-eyed noticed me and immediately shouted, "David! David's here!" I knew it. There's no way David would hold back and not come. Joanna suddenly looked up, and the moment she saw me, the corners of her lips curled ever so slightly. I ignored those waiting to see the drama unfold and walked straight up to Joanna. "David!" Joanna clung even tighter to her new boyfriend's arm. She looked at me, her voice calm. "You can't force feelings like this. We've known each other for over a decade. I don't want to say anything too harsh and ruin our past friendship. From now on, I'll still see you as a brother. If I ever need help, you can still come to my aid." After saying that, she lowered her voice slightly. "Everyone's watching. Don't make this awkward for us. Just leave, Joanna." I cut her off and took a slow step forward. She furrowed her brows again, sounding irritated. "David, calm down. Just go home." I smiled and handed her the watch I had just taken off my wrist. "I'm only here to return this." Seeing the watch, Joanna's face instantly darkened. "David, what kind of trick are you playing now? Take the watch back, and I won't bother you again." Joanna stared at me, her voice growing colder. "I don't care about this kind of money anymore. If you don't want it, just throw it away." Before she finished speaking, I turned and threw the watch into a nearby trash bin. I said, "You can throw away all the other things I gave you too." With that, I didn't look at her again and turned to walk away. Joanna stood still until my figure disappeared from sight. Her expression, however, remained somewhat sour. Her friends quickly tried to smooth things over. David's just trying to save face, pretending to be tough. Just watch, Joanna, by tonight he'll regret it. Maybe as soon as we leave, he'll come back crying, digging through the trash for that watch." Hearing that, Joanna let out a chuckle. "Whatever he wants. If it weren't for the sake of our family's elders, I wouldn't have even bothered with him. All right, enough, don't let him spoil our night. We need to celebrate properly tonight." Joanna glanced at her handsome and wealthy new boyfriend. She tossed my annoying face out of her mind. By tomorrow, she thought I'd be waiting at the dorm acting like nothing ever happened, begging her for forgiveness so we could go to class together. By the time I reached the riverside, the rain had grown heavy. I stood there with an umbrella, thinking about the dreams I'd had over the past few days. In those dreams, I was deeply disturbed by Joanna and Daniel's relationship and fell into the river by accident. When I fell, I injured my spine, lost half my life, and ended up with a permanent disability, never able to walk again. But in the end, Joanna never came to see me, not even once. I was adopted by the Ye family, and when they saw me like this, they thought I had no more value to them. So they sent me back to my birth parents, who were awful, abusive people. My life spiraled downward from there, and I died miserably. After I died, it was the person I'd always distanced myself from who collected my broken remains. Joanna, on the other hand, was happily married to Daniel, never showing up at all. Everything from my dreams had been coming true these days. If it weren't for those dreams, I would probably be calling Joanna non-stop right now. I'm grateful for those dreams. It feels like I've been reborn, bit by bit, changing my tragic fate. On the third time dialing, the call finally connected. I gripped the phone tightly to my ear. The name Camila hovered on my tongue a few times before I slowly said it aloud. The heavy rain drowned out the world's noise. Only Camilla's slightly tired voice came through softly. "David? Camilla, it's raining too hard today. I'm stuck by the river and can't get back. Can you come pick me up? There was silence on the other end of the line for a few seconds. I gripped the umbrella handle nervously, waiting for her reply. In my dream, when Camilla gathered my remains, it seemed like she cried. Her tears fell one by one onto my decaying flesh and bones. Even in the dream, I could feel the burning heat of her tears. Later, she kept a small bottle of my ashes with her for the rest of her life. She lived alone all her life. Thinking about that, I instinctively choked and sighed. Camilla remained silent. Then she asked, "Why are you upset?" I didn't say I wouldn't come. Embarrassed, I asked, "So when are you coming?" She replied, "Wait for me, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I said, "Okay, I'll wait for you, Camilla." She didn't say another word and hung up the phone. 15 minutes later, I gave my umbrella to a mother and child who were taking shelter from the rain. So when Camilla arrived, I was already drenched from head to toe. When she got out of the car, her lips were pressed tight and her face was cold as ice. I brushed aside my wet bangs and gave her a bright smile. "Camilla, you're right on time." "David, you might as well be dead, you idiot," she said coldly, grabbing my arm and pulling me into the car. Then she tossed me a soft blanket. "Dry yourself off. Don't mess up the car." She glanced at me through the rearview mirror and told the driver to turn the car around. I wiped the water off my head, then looked up and started watching her through the window reflection. When she had no expression, she always looked distant and hard to approach. A lot of guys at school liked her, but none of them dared to confess. She was Joanna's best friend and also her roommate. I used to visit their shared apartment all the time to help Joanna move things, and whenever I was there, Camilla always seemed to dislike me. Even now, despite coming to get me, she still acted all cold and indifferent. There was no sign at all that she had secretly liked me all along. I shook my head slowly. Everything from my dream had come true. But now, thanks to the changes I've made, many things have turned out differently. Does Camilla still like me? If she doesn't like me at all, then am I just adding more trouble for her? She suddenly asked, going back to the dorm. Camilla glanced at me as she spoke. My heart skipped a beat, and before I could stop myself, I said, "Yeah, to your dorm." Camilla suddenly burst into laughter and said, "Joanna's not coming back tonight. You won't see her even if we go." I awkwardly replied, "I know, I'm not looking for her." Camilla turned back to look at me, sounding exasperated. "David, are you just making me part of your little relationship drama?" She looked at me, her eyes deep and filled with countless emotions. Suddenly I felt an inexplicable sadness. I sighed and said, "Camilla, you know it too. After what happened today, my roommates all laughed at me, calling me a simp, saying I gained nothing from it. I'm thinking of renting a place tomorrow. Can I crash in your living room for just one night?" I added, "Of course, if it's not convenient, don't worry about it. I'll find somewhere else." After I finished speaking, Camilla didn't say another word, but the car was heading toward her dorm. I followed Camilla into the dorm. She handed me a towel from the closet and said, "The bathroom is over there." After my shower, I hastily put on a hoodie and came out drying my hair, looking for a hairdryer. Camilla was sitting on the couch, eyes glued to the TV. She only glanced at me briefly before quickly looking away. I walked past Joanna's usual spot and sat down next to her. The shampoo and body wash on me were Camilla's. In the small space, the same scent lingered in the air, creating a subtle but undeniable tension. Camilla stood up, pressing her lips together, and said, "It's too stuffy in here. I'll go out to the balcony for some fresh air." She went to the terrace. I curiously looked around at the room's layout. The TV in front of the sofa was playing Pokémon. The coffee table was neatly arranged with books, a laptop, and her phone. Everything was very tidy. I was just about to take a closer look at a small ornament near the corner of the table when Camilla's phone suddenly rang. Joanna's name was flashing on the screen. I didn't answer. The phone rang again and again, almost without stopping. I called out to Camilla from the balcony. "Camilla!" She quickly turned around and asked, "What's up?" "Joanna's calling." Without hesitation, she picked up the phone and put it on silent. I awkwardly scratched my head, changing the subject. "I accidentally got the couch wet. I might have to sleep on the floor tonight." Camilla looked at me, then at the wet spot on the couch before turning around and handing me a hairdryer. In a low voice, she said, "Just sleep in my bed tonight." I asked, "What about you?" She pulled out a chair, not even looking back. "I'm going to binge watch my shows." Oh. Camilla grabbed her headphones, just about to put them on, when my phone suddenly rang. It was Joanna. Annoyed, I answered the call and said, "Joanna, what do you want?" Camilla frowned but didn't say anything, just glanced at me before turning back to her screen. Joanna asked, "Someone told me they saw you go to our dorm. I'm warning you, don't cling to me. The more you do this, the more I'll hate you." I was speechless and just about to respond, but before I could say anything, Camilla stood up and came over, straddling my lap, hooking her arm around my neck. Instinctively, I started to push her away, but she leaned in close to my ear and whispered, "David, tell her you're here for someone else." Her fingers brushed against the back of my neck, and my skin instantly heated up like it was on fire. My brow furrowed and my heart pounded in my chest. I looked down at her, and she looked up at me, her eyes gradually filling with desire. Hoarsely, I said, "Stop flattering yourself, okay? I'm here for someone else." As soon as I said that, she grabbed my phone and tossed it aside, burying her head in my chest. The next second, I clearly felt a volcano of heat rising within me. The buzzing in my ears grew louder, and my first thought was to get up and cool off. But Camilla clung to me tightly, lifting her head and softly whispering my name, "David." Her warm breath fell on my ear. I struggled to control myself, leaning down to kiss her lips. As she gently broke through my defenses, I tried to regain some sanity, saying, "Don't tempt me. I don't want to touch you in this place." "David." She shifted her body, trying to adjust her position. The volcano inside me felt like it was about to erupt, fierce and overwhelming. In between breaths, she questioned, "If you don't want to touch me, why did you kiss me?" Camilla tilted her head, her forehead pressed against mine. As our breathing entwined, I closed my eyes, trying to calm down. She added, "Also, do you even know how to kiss?" "My lips are swollen now." I gently placed my right hand on her waist, my left hand holding hers. Softly, I said, "Camilla, I'll be more gentle this time." As my words fell, my hands moved to her lower back. I pulled her close, pressing her against me. This time the kiss was long and tender. But toward the end, I lost a bit of control and wasn't as gentle as I'd intended. She lightly hit me and, in between breaths, bit me. "David!" I tried my hardest to suppress the volcano, but it was already threatening to erupt again. Clearly, Camilla felt it too. Her face showed surprise, her ears turning a deep shade of red. The usually cold and distant goddess now looked shy and flustered. She bashfully said, "I'm going to take a shower." She stood up quickly, avoiding my gaze, and adjusted my shirt before saying, "You go to sleep." Before I could respond, Camilla rushed into the bathroom, as the sound of water echoed from the bathroom. I lay down on Camilla's bed and began to drift off. Camilla was tall, with bright eyes and pearly teeth, the recognized goddess of the campus confession wall, yet she had never had a boyfriend, nor had she ever gotten close to a guy. There were even rumors that she wasn't into men. But after everything that had happened tonight, I couldn't help but think back to the dream of her growing old alone, and a wave of complicated emotions washed over me. Lying on Camilla's pillow, I stretched out and accidentally found a pearl earring underneath. The earring looked familiar. It was the same one I had given to the girls in their dorm as a gift when I was pursuing Joanna. I hadn't expected Camilla to keep it under her pillow this whole time. Suddenly I remembered. In the dream, Camilla had kept this earring with her all her life. I stared at it for a long time, then gently placed it back under her pillow. The sound of the hairdryer stopped. When Camilla came out, she was wearing a light beige cotton pajama set. The steam from the shower made her skin glow like jade. Her hair fell softly, and her usual aloofness seemed to fade a little. For some reason, she looked incredibly sweet and gentle in that moment. Just as I was about to call her name, faint voices drifted from outside the door. I froze, stunned. Among those voices, one was unmistakably Joanna's. Camilla was also startled, but she reacted faster than I did. By the time Joanna pushed the door open, my clothes were already hidden in the wardrobe, and my shoes were shoved deep under the bed. Camilla was already in bed, pulling the blanket up. Only a small nightlight was on, casting dim shadows across the room. I was hidden under Camilla's blanket, barely noticeable except for the slight rise and fall of my breathing. Even if Joanna came closer, she wouldn't notice anything unless she looked very carefully. "Why'd you turn off the lights so early?" Joanna asked curiously. "I've got a headache from the rain," Camilla replied softly. keeping her composure. The bed wasn't very wide, and with Camilla's height and long legs, she took up most of the space. My body was pressed close to hers, my breath brushing lightly against her side. "All right," Joanna said, not turning on the lights. She sat down on a chair, picked up her phone, and started making calls. She tried several times, but no one answered, and her frustration was obvious. "Camilla, do you think David's doing this on purpose?" "Huh?" Camilla asked, her voice calm. "Daniel just confessed to me today, and now David's acting like this to mess with me," Joanna said irritably. "I saw on the news that a college student jumped into the river over a breakup. I thought he couldn't handle it. But when they pulled the body out, it wasn't him. Then he told me he's with some other woman now, and now he won't answer his phone. He's doing this on purpose, trying to ruin my night." After a pause, Joanna scoffed. "I bet he'll be stuck on me for the rest of his life." "Maybe not," Camilla suddenly said. Joanna looked at her, surprised. "Not? Camilla, you've seen how he's been clinging to me these past 2 years. You never liked him either. You always gave him the cold shoulder." Camilla tensed slightly, her tone steady as she said, "Nothing. Just a little leg cramp." "All right, I'll let you rest." "I won't bother you anymore," Joanna said, standing up. "I'll just use the bathroom and then head out." As she pushed open the bathroom door, a sudden realization hit me. When I had showered earlier, I had washed my socks and left them hanging inside. Sure enough, a moment later, Joanna came out with a teasing smile. "Camilla, did you bring a guy to the dorm?" "You hit it well!" "Which guy managed to win over our ice queen?" "Don't be ridiculous," Camilla replied quickly. Joanna took a few playful steps closer to the bed. "Going to bed this early?"
Is someone hiding under the covers?
"Joanna," Camilla said sharply, her tone suddenly cold. All right, I won't come any closer," Joanna said, stopping with a smirk. But she still looked at the bed with curiosity. "Just make sure you're being careful. I've got plenty of supplies if you need them." "Don't want any surprises later." Camilla's expression turned icy. "I don't like that kind of joke, Joanna. It's not funny." Joanna blinked, surprised by her seriousness. "You're really serious?" "Yeah," Camilla said firmly. If the light had been brighter, Joanna would have seen how tense Camilla's face was, how hard she was trying to stay calm. Her hands were clenched under the blanket, holding her composure with everything she had. After a moment, Joanna sighed. "All right then, I won't disturb you two. I'm staying out tonight." She spoke with a knowing tone, giving Camilla one last glance before heading out. Even though Camilla had always seemed pure and distant, Joanna thought to herself that maybe she wasn't so untouchable after all. But she didn't expose her. Their relationship was still friendly, even if Joanna sometimes felt overshadowed by her. As soon as the door closed, I threw off the blanket, gasping quietly, "Camilla?" I was suffocating in there. Camilla leaned against the headboard, her deep gaze fixed on me. The dim light fell softly on her face, outlining her features with shadows that made her look calm yet distant. "David," she said slowly. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, looked at me seriously and said, "I've never been annoyed by you. I've never given you the cold shoulder." Don't believe what she said. Then she turned her head away, throwing off the covers and standing up. "Go to sleep. What about you?" I asked. She picked up a cup and gestured toward the living room. "I'm going to watch something." "You go ahead and rest." I hesitated, then said, "Camilla, it's a bit cold tonight. The blanket's thin." This time she didn't even look back. "David, Joanna's gone. You don't have to keep pretending anymore." "What does she have to do with it?" I asked quietly. Camilla let out a small, self-deprecating laugh. "Why were you by the river tonight?" It clicked then. Joanna's comment about someone jumping into the river made Camilla think I'd gone there because I couldn't handle things, that maybe I came back with her just to get back at Joanna. I could understand why she'd think that. Over the past 2 years, my adoptive parents, the Ye family, had been putting pressure on me. After they found their real son, they'd considered sending me back to my biological parents. They only kept me around because of my engagement with the Liu family. To me, Joanna had felt like a lifeline. We'd grown up together. I thought she'd care, that she'd help me. But to everyone else, I just looked like a fool hopelessly clinging to her. And then there was Camilla. As Joanna's best friend, she'd seen all of that. "Camilla," I started. But she was already standing up. Set an alarm and leave early tomorrow, she said quietly. You don't want anyone seeing you. She didn't look back. I clenched my jaw. Then what about all those moments earlier tonight? What did that mean? Camilla froze. I know you're tired of me, I said softly. But tonight, thank you. If you really don't want anything to do with me, I'll leave now. I got out of bed, not even caring that I couldn't find my shoes, and walked barefoot toward the door. As I passed by her, I saw tears streaking down her face. David, she whispered, grabbing my hand. I told you. I don't hate you. I turned and pulled her into my arms. Then do you want me to take responsibility for you? I asked quietly. She hesitated, her voice trembling. If you really want to, then do it completely. I held her close. I will, I said with conviction. During the long holiday, I traveled to the city where my biological parents lived. I stayed for 3 days. By the time I left, both of them, people who'd been involved in gambling and far worse, had been taken away by the police. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. When my plane landed back in the capital, I texted Camilla to let her know I was safe. She didn't know the real reason I'd gone. She thought it was just a short trip with friends. She asked, Are you ready for me to come over tonight? Camilla was planning to move into my new place. Staying in the same dorm as Joanna had become too awkward. Everything's ready, I said. You're welcome anytime. She paused for a moment.
David, she said. It's Joanna's birthday tonight.
She told me to bring my boyfriend. I'd completely forgotten. Joanna's birthday always fell during the National Day holiday. Do you want me to go with you? I asked. Yes, she answered without hesitation. Then come pick me up, I said finally. As I hung up, I caught my reflection in the window. For the first time in a long while, I was smiling. David, look outside. Camilla's voice came through the phone. I looked up, and there she was, walking toward me through the crowd at the airport. Everything felt like it was moving in slow motion. She waved, smiling brightly, and ran straight into my arms. I dropped my luggage and held her tight. She looked up at me, teasing. You've got a strong core, huh? I laughed. My back's strong, too. Want to test it? She poked my shoulder playfully. Careful what you promise, I grinned. Just you wait. That night, Joanna's birthday party was packed with people. She looked stunning in a purple silk gown, the fabric shimmering as she walked. Daniel, confident and well-dressed, stood beside her. Together they looked like the perfect couple. But Joanna seemed distracted. Daniel called her name a few times before she responded. It's getting late, he said gently. Everyone's hungry. Not everyone's here yet, Joanna murmured. Who's missing? Camilla hasn't arrived, she said quietly. Oh, and David hasn't shown up either, someone added. Yeah, another chimed in. No way he'd miss Joanna's birthday. I didn't invite him, Joanna interrupted coldly. Even if he comes, I won't let him in, Daniel frowned. Joanna, don't get upset. It's your birthday. Don't let an irrelevant person ruin your night. She forced a smile and nodded. For a moment, she thought about David, how he hadn't shown up outside her dorm for weeks, how he no longer looked at her in class. She told herself she didn't care. But a strange emptiness lingered. Maybe she just wasn't used to being ignored. Still, she thought, if David did show up tonight, maybe she'd forgive him, just a little. Suddenly, the door to the private room swung open. Guess who I just saw? Someone said, grinning. Who? It's David, the guy said. Joanna's heart skipped, though she hid it quickly. See? Someone teased. He couldn't stay away. The room went silent when David walked in, with Camilla by his side. Joanna's glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. A piece cut her ankle, but she didn't even flinch. Daniel turned to her, panicked. Joanna, you're bleeding. Get out. Joanna, I said get out. Didn't you hear me? Joanna stood up abruptly, angrily kicking aside the broken glass. Daniel stood there stunned for a while before finally storming out in anger. The rest of the guests in the room quickly followed suit, sensing the tension. Blood dripped from Joanna's ankle onto the floor, but she didn't seem to feel any pain. She just stared fiercely at Camilla. After a long moment, she finally pointed at me and asked, Camilla, care to explain? Camilla only smiled lightly and asked in a calm tone, Explain what? Why is David here with you? You invited me to bring my boyfriend to your birthday party, remember? Camilla clung to my arm, leaning against me closely. Joanna's anger flared like a cat bristling. She swept all the cups and glasses off the table with a furious swipe of her hand and screamed, "Camilla, do you even know that David is mine?" Camilla asked, "Yours in what way? Is he your boyfriend? Your fiancé? Or do you think just because someone once liked you, they have to stay in love with you forever while you get to string them along?" Joanna ignored her and continued, "You knew David liked me, and you still went behind my back. Is this how you treat your best friend?" With that, she reached out to grab my arm. I grasped her shoulder and shoved her hard, causing her to fall to the floor, her purple dress soaking in the spilled wine. I said, exasperated, "Joanna, stop flattering yourself and stop clinging to me. There's nothing between us, so there's no wall to be broken. Even if Camilla dug up your grave, she wouldn't find me. And by the way, I'm the one who sought her out. I don't like you. No, I haven't liked you for a long time. Did you hear that clearly?" I looked at her, realizing that I had long since let go. After all, any man with even a shred of self-respect couldn't keep liking someone who treated him like she did, like a toy to be called and dismissed at will. Maybe during those years when we grew up together, there was a bit of vague affection, but after my true identity was exposed and her attitude changed, those feelings had long faded to dust. "David, what did you say?" Joanna looked like she'd just heard the most ridiculous thing in the world. She struggled to her feet and said, "You almost jumped into the river for me, and now you're saying you don't like me?" I sighed. "I never intended to jump into the river for you. It's not that serious. Who do you think I am?" The reason I went to the river that night was to find an excuse to see Camilla. Joanna froze, staring at me with wide eyes. After a long moment, she glared at me, gritting her teeth as she spat out her words one by one. "So that night, the person in Camilla's bed was you?" "Yes, it was me. Joanna, just focus on your own relationship. I told you that night. I will never come looking for you again. And I meant it." With that, I didn't spare her another glance. I took Camilla's hand and turned to leave. "Camilla, let's go home. You wanted to see what the new place looks like, right?" But Camilla didn't move. She looked at Joanna with a calm yet sharp gaze and said, "Joanna, David is my boyfriend. He has nothing to do with you. I don't want to hear you spreading rumors that he's somehow still yours." Joanna, completely losing her composure, turned to me and screamed in frustration, "David, you say you like me, then turn around and leave me for someone else. Do you think you're worth anything?" I shook my head and replied, "If you don't know what I'm worth, why don't you go home and ask your father?" Joanna fell silent. She glared at me with a twisted expression, her once beautiful face now filled with something ugly and unrecognizable. She said, "David, Camilla doesn't know, does she? That you're not really the true heir of the Ye family? Keeping such a big secret from her is not very nice, don't you think?" Although I had already prepared for the truth about my origins. To come out, hearing Joanna expose it so suddenly still caught me off guard. Seeing my reaction, Joanna laughed. "So you have been keeping it from her. I knew it. Camilla is only with you because she thinks you're some rich heir. If she knew the truth, that you're just an adopted nobody, she'd ditch you in a heartbeat, wouldn't she?" "Joanna." Camilla suddenly let go of my hand. She rolled up her sleeves and removed her bracelet, handing it to me. With each word, she said clearly and firmly, "I always thought you were a fickle, untrustworthy person, but I never considered you evil. But now I see that I was wrong." Camilla stepped forward, grabbing Joanna by the hair and yanking her toward her, causing Joanna to scream in pain. Just as Joanna was about to fight back, Camilla raised her arm and slapped her across the face again and again with all her strength. As she slapped her, she said, "You're not just a worthless piece of trash, but also a despicable lowlife. And another thing, Joanna, I'm not like you. I don't care about who's rich or who's the heir of whatever family. I like David for who he is, not for his name or family. If his name were David or Chen Zi, I would still love him just the same." Joanna's face turned bright red, but she still retorted, "A guy like him? Who knows how many girls he's tricked into sleeping with using a fake identity? Trash attracts trash. You two deserve each other." Before she could finish, I stormed forward, burning with rage, and delivered a slap that knocked one of her teeth out. She fell to the ground, clutching her mouth in pain, too shocked to speak. Camilla grabbed my arm as I was about to continue, urging me, "David, stop. You'll get into trouble." I nodded, stopped, and took her hand. Camila, let's go home. As we reached the car, I stopped and called her name. Camila, do you believe me? What? I looked straight into her eyes. She was wearing a light-colored silk blouse, her teary-eyed look making her appear delicate and vulnerable. It made her earlier actions of slapping Joanna seem even more captivating. I felt incredibly moved by her. For years I had tried so hard to prove something, desperately clinging to any lifeline I could find. But it always ended in disappointment. The elders who once doted on me no longer cared. They didn't hit me, but their cold indifference was more than enough to crush a teenager's spirit. My biological parents were greedy demons, and I lived in constant fear of being sent back to them, where my life would be ruined forever. Even the childhood friend I grew up with looked down on me. And until my last breath, I didn't realize there had been someone who had quietly loved me all along. Luckily, everything from that dream would never happen now, I said. I really didn't go to the river because of Joanna. And also, I've never been with anyone before. You're my first and only girlfriend. David. Camila stood on her toes and kissed me. I wrapped my arms around her shoulders, kissing her back. Finally, she gently rubbed my palm and whispered, David, I don't care about any of that. But hearing you say it still makes me happy. I nodded and said, I know, Camila. I'm telling you this because I don't want anyone to throw dirt on my name. I'm doing this for you, but also for myself. With that, I smiled and pulled her in even tighter. Camila, let's hurry home. You're dressed too lightly, you'll catch a cold. All right. She held my hand tightly, very tightly. And from that moment, she held it for the rest of our lives. Before Camila and I made our relationship completely public, I went to the Ye family and had a long conversation with the elders. In the end, with some help from Martin, the true heir of the Ye family, I regained my independence and was no longer tied to the Ye family or my biological parents. I chose this moment because I knew the Ye family and my biological parents too well. If they learned about my relationship with Camila, they would cling to the Zhu family like leeches. And I didn't want to drag Camila or her family into that mess. As I left the Ye household, Ye madam wasn't too pleased. David, we raised you all these years, spent millions on you, and we haven't gotten a single penny in return. But my mindset had completely changed by then. The Ye family had raised me for 16 years, and until the real Ye son returned, I had lived a difficult few years, but they hadn't starved me. Even Martin, who once harbored hostility toward me, had unexpectedly changed his attitude. It was true that he had once been involved in the decision to kick me out of school and send me back to my biological parents, but now he was also the one who helped me resolve my final issues and convinced Ye madam not to air my dirty laundry publicly. Now I was free. I was David again, no longer bound by anyone or anything. I was content. Madam, I bowed respectfully to Ye madam. I will never forget your kindness in raising me. Easy for you to say. Ye madam looked at me coldly. You couldn't even win over a childhood friend like Joanna. What future do you have? Forget it. Just go. I can't stand the sight of you. She waved me off. I didn't bother explaining further. I just shot Martin a look. Mom, I'll walk David out, Martin said. Her expression softened immediately. Come back soon. We're having dinner. Got it. Martin smiled and led me out of the house. We stopped in the garden. We looked at each other and suddenly we both burst into laughter. Bro. I hugged him. Thank you. At the same time, Martin quietly said, David, I'm sorry. We didn't say much more, but we both understood. Martin's apology was for the David in the dream. My eyes grew red, and Martin shed tears too. Finally, he squeezed my hand tightly and said, David, this time you have to be really, really happy. I will, bro. You too. I would repay the Ye family's kindness in raising me by helping Martin in the future. He had suffered for 16 years, while I had lived in comfort for those same 16 years. In the dream, I had once hated him, but now I let go of all the past grudges. When Camila took me to meet her parents, I was genuinely nervous. Mrs. Shu had become a devout Buddhist in recent years, though I didn't know why. Every year without fail, she would go to Pujisi Temple to burn the first incense of the year. Don't be nervous. My mom has become very kind-hearted since she started practicing Buddhism, and my dad just goes along with whatever she says. I nodded, trying to suppress the anxiety rising in my chest. I was about to mentally rehearse the lines I'd prepared when Camilla suddenly said, "David, my mom's already coming out to meet us." Sure enough, Mrs. Shu was walking down the steps toward the car. I had no choice but to steel myself and face her. "Mom, this is David." "Hello, ma'am. I'm David." I greeted her politely and handed over the gift I'd prepared. Mrs. Shu smiled as she accepted the gift, but her eyes never left me. Even after we entered the living room, she continued to observe me intently. Then she suddenly insisted on taking me upstairs to the study. I was a bit worried and glanced at Camilla for reassurance. But Mrs. Shu patted my shoulder and said, "Don't be nervous, David. Let's just have a little chat upstairs." Then she turned back and teased Camilla with a smile. "No need for you to be nervous either. I'm not a monster, am I?" All I could do was offer a stiff smile and nod. Mrs. Shu seemed to be in an exceptionally good mood, holding onto my hand as we went upstairs. "Look, Mr. Shu, isn't David just as I said? Handsome and refined." Mr. Shu, a gentle and scholarly man, nodded repeatedly. "Indeed, he's very well-mannered. A good young man." I was completely bewildered, unsure of what was going on. Mrs. Shu's eyes were red as she explained, "David, don't get the wrong idea. This might sound strange, but I've been having the same dream for years. In the dream, Camilla never married because of a boy, and she passed away all alone in her 40s. At first, her father and I didn't believe it. We thought it was just a dream. But then, piece by piece, everything else from the dream came true." Her tears flowed freely as she continued, "I've spent these years praying and following a vegetarian diet, all for Camilla. I was truly scared that the final part of the dream would come true. I always thought if that boy really existed, how wonderful it would be if he could be with Camilla. And now seeing you, I know my prayers weren't in vain. David, you and Camilla must take good care of each other." My vision blurred with emotion. In this world, there were people like my biological parents, and then there were people like Mrs. Shu, who loved their children fiercely. How lucky was I to have found Camilla and to have such a good family. Finally, all the regrets from the dream had been resolved. After we graduated from university, David and I got married. We moved into our own home, and one day while David was taking a shower, I pulled out the pearl earring I had always kept. But this time, I put it on, the pearl earring. Only the earring. When David came out of the bathroom, I was lying in bed completely covered by the blanket, pretending to sleep. "Camilla," he kissed my cheek softly, his lips warm against my skin. It tickled and my lashes fluttered, but I kept my eyes closed. David chuckled lowly and kissed me again before pulling back the blanket to get into bed. But as soon as he lifted the covers, he froze. "Camilla?" The soft glow from the bedside lamp gently illuminated the room, casting a warm light over me. The pearl earring glinted faintly beneath my hair. Between the light and shadow, the glow painted everything with a quiet tenderness. My skin against the pale white of the sheets, the rhythm of my breathing calm but nervous. At first I was shy, my body stiff with tension. But when I saw the look on David's face, that mix of awe, love, and disbelief, all my nervousness melted away. I sat up and leaned into his arms, wrapping mine around his neck. I whispered in his ear, "David, do you like it?" "You're staring so hard." He froze for a second, his breath unsteady, his heartbeat strong against my chest. His voice was low and trembling as he whispered, "Camilla." The room fell silent except for the sound of our hearts. He held me closer, his hand gently brushing through my hair, and I could feel the warmth of his skin, the weight of his emotions. For a long time, we just stayed like that, breathing, holding, feeling. Then I suddenly remembered that day at the airport. My voice was soft when I asked, "Didn't you say back then that crying and begging wouldn't work?" David smiled faintly, though I could still sense the storm of emotion inside him. He hugged me even tighter, his voice hoarse and trembling. "I can't bear it," he murmured. "Camilla, when did you start liking me?" I didn't answer right away. He brushed a strand of hair behind my ear and said teasingly, "Not talking? Then I won't tell you when I started liking you either. Despite the warmth in his tone, there was something tender beneath it, something raw and real. Unable to resist his persistence, I finally answered, "From the first time I saw you." I paused and smiled softly. "David, I once thought I'd never get the chance to tell you." David leaned in and kissed the corner of my lips gently. "It's all right, Camilla," he said. "Now we have a whole lifetime to be together." "Yes," I whispered back. "We have a lifetime now." Our fingers intertwined at some point, and as I leaned up to kiss him again, he lowered his head and met me halfway, a quiet promise between two people who had finally found home in each other.